Welcome to the Calsoft Podcast series. This is your host, Mark Rodrigues. Joining us for today's show is Swanand Shende. Hey, Swanand.
Hi, Mark. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, thanks, Swanand. What about you?
Pretty well, thank you.
So, Swanand is going to be talking on a very interesting topic today. He's going to be talking about storage automation using the vRealize suite, that is vRA and vRO. A quick brief about Swanand. He's a technical architect here with us at Calsoft, and he specializes in integration projects. Swanand has executed multiple projects involving integration of the storage and network devices with various ecosystems. Especially his primary focus area has been VMware. The correct, Swanand?
That's correct.
Brilliant. So let's get into the topic, Swanand. Firstly, what is vRA and vRO?
Yeah. So vRA stands for vRealize Automation, and vRO stands for vRealize Orchestrator.
Okay.
So these are two products from VMware. They typically get bundled in the vRealize suite. These two products are at the forefront of VMware's automation story.
Yeah.
Basically, these products work in tandem with each other.
Right.
One product providing a cloud controller kind of services, which is vRealize Automation, and really at the back end, the workhorse is the vRO.
Yeah.
So the orchestrator does all the hard work, and the remainder of cloud management services are available in vRealize Automation. So vRA essentially uses vRO, and put together they provide an excellent automation solution.
Brilliant. So could you explain then the context for storage automation with respect to products available in the VMware's vRealize suite?
Yeah. So before talking about vRA and vRO, we all know that there are vCenter plugins that are built by storage vendors.
Absolutely.
So that has been the trend so far. So that's like a prerequisite for a storage vendor to operate in a vSphere environment.
Absolutely.
So over the past 4 to 5 years, we at Calsoft have built plenty of vCenter plugins. We have been at the forefront of building plugins for storage vendors. The typical story in a vCenter plugin was about providing a single pane of glass kind of management for vSphere admins, so that they can manage their virtual environment and the storage environment through a through a single web client plugin, through a single web client. So that has been the story so far. But in the past 2 to 3 years, since vRA and vRO from VMware have kind of stabilized now, and we see that multiple cloud services providers, large enterprises, do have deployments of vRA and vRO, and for them to really make full use of their investment in these products, it is vital for storage vendors to make sure that they have integration with these two products.
Absolutely.
So this is kind of a next step for those storage vendors who already have a vCenter plugin, which was typically targeted towards small and medium enterprises.
Yeah.
Now, if they want to get into a completely different market like cloud service providers or large enterprises, they need to have this integration in place. So this is the next logical step for all the storage vendors.
So there's no way other than this, is what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, there are multiple automation tools like Chef, Puppet, Ansible that are available, and many people do use them. But this is very specific to people who have already invested in deploying vRA and vRO. So it's a huge value add for those customers.
So basically the next step in being VMware ready then?
Exactly.
Okay, perfect. So let's take a step back and look at it from the storage provider's end. How is this integration solution making life easier for the administrators?
Yeah. So in large organizations, typically you can see that the role of a storage admin is kind of separate from virtual admins who typically manage the virtual infrastructure. But for storage administrators, that their typical day comprises of creating volumes, updating the size of the volumes, maintaining their records, making sure that each of those volumes have enough space, so monitoring, attaching them to various virtual machines. At times you have quality of service requirements that need to be fulfilled. So all of this can really be handled through an automation engine. What's special about vRA and vRO is that vRA provides a self-service portal and kind of functionality where the end users can directly interface with storage management without the storage administrator having to spend time and effort in between. So it's kind of a self-service that's available for the end user. We'll cover the typical user stories that would be addressed through this integration, but at a very high level, a storage administrator would be able to automate his usual maintenance tasks very easily. At the same time, he can empower his users to use his storage services directly.
Okay, so then on a very light note, are you saying that storage administrators are losing jobs, or they are going to be a diminishing utility?
Good question. It's just the opposite of that. So the way I look at it is that the storage administrator would be putting his time to better use.
Okay.
So his time was lost doing these mundane things, which can very easily be automated.
Okay.
So now he can better utilize his time and concentrate on monitoring his storage. Can better utilize it for planning, for availability, and those kind of scenarios. For the usual stuff, vRA and vRO would take away his effort and spare his time.
Okay, brilliant. That sounds very encouraging.
Yeah.
Okay, you mentioned that there are some typical use cases that you would like to throw some light on. So, can we jump into that?
Yeah. Yeah, we can talk about the use cases. So I'll be covering some typical use cases that we have seen clients ask for. So these are the typical use cases which obviously the storage vendors, the storage admins must be telling the storage vendors to cover.
Yeah.
So these can be considered as pain points that would be addressed through this integration. The first one that I would like to talk about is self-service storage provisioning. So the typical use case here is that you have a group of developers. They want to deploy a particular server and they instantaneously require storage. Now you could have various scenarios. You could have developers who just want about 10 GB of a virtual disk.
Yeah.
And they otherwise would have to go through the typical provisioning process.
Correct.
Which would take time, which would obviously take longer. So through the self-service portal, which is available in vRealize automation, all they have to do is select the appropriate template, which would be created by the storage admin for him, configure it in terms of values like the size, the QoS parameters, and all of the provisioning would automatically be available to him within minutes,
right,
which would typically take probably hours.
Mm-hmm.
So self-service provisioning is a huge use case.
Yeah.
It saves a tremendous amount of time and empowers the end users. So the users, the example we took was of developers, but they could be really any. You could have various departments who within an organization,
Yeah.
who would not want to go through the typical wait time for
Sure.
provisioning resources.
Sure.
So the administrator, storage administrator, can create blueprints or templates, as I said, which are very specific to each department, and each department can then be empowered to provision resources for itself.
Okay.
The second use case that we are looking at is integration of storage inventory into the virtual infrastructure. So the typical problem that we are trying to solve here is that in vRA and in vRO, you have various virtual objects like virtual machine, the virtual network. All of these objects are available from vSphere. So you can operate on those objects. When I say operate, you can manage those objects. But for a third-party storage vendor, his objects or the objects that are related to his offering are not available in vRA and vRO out of the box. So what this entails is that the end user is not able to operate on those objects directly.
Sure.
So even if he has a vRA and vRO in place, to really manage the third-party system like a storage device or a network device, he would still have to go to its own respective management interface,
Correct.
which is the pain point.
Correct.
So what he should be able to do is, just as he is able to orchestrate various activities of his virtual environment, he should be able to see the objects from the storage array or from the network device.
Yeah.
And he should be able to see what operations are available on those objects and directly work with those objects within vRealize Orchestrator. For this, he requires that the third-party storage system has an integration with vRO. So once the storage system has this integration, it empowers the administrator to make use of those objects from vRO itself. So this user story talks about blending the objects from your virtual environment with your storage environment, and kind of empowering the administrator to be able to use both. The third use case that I would like to talk about is the quality of service. Quality of service, again, it's a typical feature that plenty of storage providers do offer.
Yeah.
So you have various kinds of people who would like to control the quality of service of the storage that they would want to use.
Correct.
To suit their own requirement.
Absolutely.
Again, so all of this can be made configurable through a vRA and vRO integration, and essentially allow the end user to select the quality of service that he wants. Of course, all of this is monitored in vRA through a proper approval process.
Yeah.
So the storage admin can monitor the provisioning that has happened, but it just allows the end user more options to choose from.
Okay.
The last user story that I would like to talk about is data protection. So it's kind of linked to the earlier user stories as well. So when the end user requests storage, he would he should also have the choice to decide the data protection policy that should be applied to it. So the end user can obviously tell vRA and vRO that give me a storage device which is going to store important information. My production database probably, or my most important database is going to sit on it.
Absolutely.
So make sure that it's available.
Sure.
So he can set the RPO and RTO times. All of this can easily be controlled by the end user and made available by the storage admin to the end user through vRealize automation. So these are the typical user stories that we have addressed for the various plugins and integrations we have built at Calsoft so far. And the requirement is still strong. So people, for clients for whom we have already built this integration, they have the next set of features that they want to add, and most of them are enhancements to these four use cases.
So it's basically encompassing the whole storage ecosystem for storage provider or an end user, right?
Yeah, yeah. So this kind of empowerment in terms of self-service and being able to control the provisioning by the end user, this is going to be the story going forward. Gone are the days where the storage admin had to put his hands into anything and everything that comes by.
Absolutely.
He would want to automate most of the things.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Cool. So what then would you think is the roadmap, or what roadmap would you suggest for storage vendors to implement this integration solution?
The typical roadmap that we suggest to our clients is that you should have your vCenter plugin built already.
Right.
That's the first step.
Absolutely.
So
yeah.
for an emerging storage vendor, that's the first thing that he needs to build.
Yeah.
But it would address problems of a very particular set of his clients. If he sees that his clients include cloud service providers, large enterprises who have a deployment of vRA, they would typically be asking him for integrations with vRO and vRA. So the roadmap that I would suggest for him is make sure that you have a tick in front of your vCenter plugin.
Mm-hmm.
The obvious logical step is to build a plugin for vRealize Orchestrator. Now, if you don't want to go the whole way, you can always have workflow packages, which is a subset of a plugin that can be first built, which can then further be enhanced into a full-fledged plugin for vRealize Orchestrator. And the final logical step is obviously making sure that this vRealize Orchestrator, which has this plugin, is integrated with vRealize Automation, so that templates and blueprints can be created by the administrators, which would require the vRO for its operations. So the typical roadmap is tick mark on VCP, tick mark on vRO, and the last step is integration with vRA.
Okay, brilliant, thanks. And what has been your personal experience or your experience being involved in this ecosystem where you are building this integration for storage vendors?
My experience is all about the good things that have been reported once people have used this integration.
Yeah.
So I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
One of our clients reported that when we got the vRO plugin built from Calsoft, their end customers obviously deployed it. Mm-hmm. And they could actually use all those storage management objects from vRA. Now vRealize Automation allows the administrator to create templates.
Yeah.
And blueprints. So the essential part of vRA is also the ability to create blueprints. There is something known as XaaS in vRA, which is anything as a service.
Right.
Now it's a very powerful feature available in vRA, where the administrator can basically create templates for anything as a service.
Correct.
Now using this functionality and integration of vRO with vRA, he can basically create various applications, various services for his end users. I'll give you an example. So the obvious example is storage as a service.
Mm-hmm.
So he could simply create a blueprint which could provision VMDKs and attach it to the appropriate VMs. But he could always have use cases like database as a service, for example,
mm-hmm.
where a particular volume which already has a database can be quickly snapshotted and made available to a particular VM. He could have services like data protection as a service, where the user can basically give his VM, and the service can go look at the storage that is backing up that particular VM and make sure that it's available based on the RTO and RPO that's specified. So it's really a canvas for administrators to draw on. Once you have integration with vRO, and once vRO is integrated with vRA, it's the possibilities are seamless. These are powerful tools, and you can virtually do anything using features like XAS, which is available in vRealize automation.
So if you were to talk about Lego blocks, then obviously Lego gives you a certain roadmap of putting blocks, but you can obviously tweak that in your own way to create something beautiful.
Exactly, right? Fantastic analogy. It's that powerful. You can create your own architectures.
Brilliant. So this was obviously looked at in a very large level at this year's VMworld in the US, right?
Yeah.
You want to throw some light on that?
Yeah. So there was big excitement about integrations with vRO. So we know our clients presented this solution in this year's VMworld, and the kind of response they got was phenomenal. So especially when you show the kind of blueprints and kind of services that you are able to make available to your end customers through XAS and vRA, it's astonishing. Storage admins clearly see hundreds of hours being saved through this solution. So it's extremely exciting, a prospect for the admins.
Brilliant. So 2 questions on a macro level. Obviously you've been talking about how this is saving time. Do you care to hazard a guess as to how much time and what cost savings are involved in this?
For the end user, in terms of the admins who are going to use it, through a combination of vRA and vRO, we could easily estimate about 30 to 40%
wow, okay.
of time being saved.
Okay.
So we look at it as something that would be the most essential feature that any storage vendor would have in the near future.
Okay, and the second part of my question, obviously technology evolves on a daily basis. This product at the moment seems very well established, but do you think there are some things that can be added on to this product, or do you envisage VMware coming up with anything else here?
Yeah, so we have seen VMware's marketplace host a lot of interesting blueprints.
Yeah.
So we think that's going to continue. So people are going to innovate, and they are going to share it with everyone. VMware by themselves, with all we know, would definitely be coming up with blueprints that most of their customers require. So creating exciting blueprints would be one. The second opportunity that I see is that you have a typical provisioning workflow that's available in vRA, and it can obviously be augmented to include storage configurations. So we have seen people, instead of going or rather taking the route of the blueprints, have directly decided to augment the provisioning workflow in vRA and make sure that each VM that gets provisioned goes through a particular workflow that they have developed, which makes sure that the storage that is going to be eventually provisioned is the right kind of storage for the end user.
Brilliant. Okay. That ends our discussion for today. So Anand, it was great to hear about the what, why and the how of vRA and vRO, and how it is becoming an integral part of storage automation.
Yeah, thank you. It was a pleasure. You're welcome.
So, for any feedback that you may have about our podcast, you may write to us at marketing@calsoftinc.com. Once again, I would like to take the opportunity to thank Swanand, and we hope to see you on the show again.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, you guys. Have a great day. Bye.